Hey everyone, it's Darcy. Welcome back to my channel. And if you are new here, I live in New York City. I'm an NYU grad student and I'm moving apartments. If you haven't been following me for a while, I currently live in Williamsburg, South Williamsburg, and I've lived here for 2 years. I've absolutely loved it. However, the pandemic really changed things and roommate things changed, so I have decided that I'm moving. I decided to sign my own lease for the first time because I've just been subletting for 2 years, and before that I lived in NYU dorms. So this has been my first journey touring apartments that will be all my own. I am going to be living by myself for the first time, hopefully adopting a dog in the future. And I was looking primarily in Manhattan, actually only in Manhattan really, for either a studio or 1 bedroom. And it's been an exciting time. It's been a really stressful time. It was a lot more stressful than I expected in the application process. However, I have another video coming out about that. So this video is about the apartments that I toured. It was a really interesting time in New York real estate because the pandemic really dropped prices in Manhattan, which was one of the main reasons I decided to look back in Manhattan, because Williamsburg has been on the up and up in prices and I can't really afford it just on my own, but a lot of places in Manhattan have gone down even several $100, so it made it a lot more affordable to move back. I thought it made sense with being closer to school right now, being closer to my friends right now, and it's just exciting to finally be having my own place in New York for the first time after living here 3.5 years, and I am so excited that it's finally worked out, and I'm excited to share the places that I did tour with you, so you can kind of get a sense of where things are at right now in 2021, what you can get for what's affordable in New York, which is kind of mid $1,000 range, $2,000 plus. It's what is out of my budget. So just to give you a sense of where I'm at, that's kind of the most affordable price range, which I know is really high for most cities, but New York is, you know, one of the most expensive cities to live in besides kind of like San Francisco, I think. So this is just a taste of it. It's a wild time and we'll see how long this video is, but I did look at 9 different buildings and I think around maybe a dozen or more units. So I am gonna dive in and show you all because I know I love watching these videos and seeing what people are, you know, getting for their money, different apartment styles in New York and just what's out there, because there are so many great places to live in the city, but also some not good ones. And it's an exciting time for me as I do this next chapter for where I'm living for the next year and maybe even longer if I like the place. I would love to not move again for a long time because moving is very stressful, but it's also very exciting, as I've said like 5 times now. Okay, let's get into it. So everyone has different things that are major selling points or cons for when they're looking at apartments, and I think number one thing, you just got to figure out what for you is a deal breaker, what for you is important. And I've been really lucky with where I live now. Living in Brooklyn, you can get some more amenities for the price. I've had in-unit laundry, which I don't know if I'll ever have that again. I've also had a beautiful balcony with an amazing view of the city and seeing the Empire State Building from my bedroom. As you all know if you follow me on Instagram, because I post it almost every day for 2 years. So I've loved, you know, this building, but it was just time. The AC's been broken, the water sometimes stops working right. It's been kind of a mess, so it's just been time for a lot of reasons. And so I decided to look back in Manhattan because of my budget, which was about $1,700, $1,750 max. And right now is also an interesting time because a lot of places have what they call a net effective rent. Because of the pandemic, they really have, you know, things slowed with moving in. A lot of people were moving out of Manhattan, not into it. So they kind of had a lot of signing bonuses where you could get a month or 2 off of rent. So almost every place I looked at, except for maybe 1 or 2, had a month or 2 off, and that lowered the net effective rent. But you still have the gross price rent of what you pay every month. It's just you get a month free eventually for the most part. Some places you would pay the net effective rent just over 12 months, but a lot of them it's you'll pay normal gross for 11 months and then the 12th month will be free. So I don't know if this was a thing before the pandemic. I hadn't really heard of it quite that much before. Maybe sometimes it was, but normally like it's so competitive to get these places, and it's just really interesting how the pandemic changed things, and that they literally were like giving all of these, you know, free months of rent when they just were desperate to get people in. And I think that's gonna change as things are starting to open back up in New York, but that is where things were at as I looked in the last month of like around like May 2021. So as I was saying before I got off on a tangent, my main kind of pros or like things that I needed to have were things in my budget, because I'm a grad student. I don't have tons of money, and I needed it to be dog friendly because some places aren't here. Overall the city is pretty dog friendly, like there's tons of people who live with dogs here. However, some places just don't accept dogs, so I needed to make sure that it was dog friendly, and I also just really cared about the location. I looked in Gramercy, East Village, and Lower East Side for whatever was in my price range and like what size I was looking for. Like I said, about studio, 1 bedroom. So those are kind of my main things. Also kind of the kitchen size, just because I do eat at home a lot and cook at home. I was willing to compromise on no dishwasher, because literally every place I looked at I don't think had a dishwasher. I do have one here, but again, that's where Manhattan just looked really different. Most of these buildings are a lot older. My current building's 13 years old, I believe, but pretty much all of the ones I looked at, I think, in Manhattan are pre-war, so they're like 100-year-old buildings, and you know, the units are obviously updated and the building is maintained, but they don't actually have kind of the more modern amenities the same way. Okay, enough chit chat about the premise. Let's get into the apartments. So as I finished my grad school semester, I did spend a lot of time on streeteasy.com looking at places online to see what was out there, what was in my price range, what I could afford, and that's kind of how I narrowed down to deciding to look at Manhattan primarily, and those specific areas that I've lived in before that I like. I've lived in Union Square and Gramercy before in Williamsburg, so I knew I liked them, and obviously I wanted to be close to school, so kind of that below, I don't know, 42nd Street area. The first place that I saw was in the East Village off 3rd Ave. I didn't think it was the nicest place. The fireplace was really nice, and the main room was like a decent size, but the kitchen was like kind of small and dingy. The bathroom was really dingy. So for the price, it just didn't seem quite worth it. It was south facing, pets were allowed. And so for south facing, it's like the best light that you can get in Manhattan because of the way the sun is, if you don't know. There was 3 closets, which was a lot for like Manhattan. 3 closets is a lot. So this place, a big selling point was the location is great. It's kind of prime East Village, so that's really what you were paying for, even though it wasn't the nicest unit. But you know, it's just the first place off the bat. It would have been fine, but I wasn't in love. I wasn't just gonna go and apply right away. So then a couple days later, I saw some places that were Lower East Side. I really liked the layout because it was studio, but the bedrooms felt pretty separate, as you can see by these clips. And I looked at one that was a little bit lower in price, not quite as nice, and I wasn't like super big of a fan just because it wasn't as nice, but I did really like the layout. So the realtor showed me another one that was just a little bit more expensive, but also felt a lot nicer, and I was ready to potentially apply. However, then he told me that it was not dog friendly. The owners had a no dog policy, and I was like, well, I'm sorry, that's a deal breaker. So I had to walk away from that one, unfortunately, even though I did really like it. But again, you kind of have to pick and choose like what's worth it to you, and like I can't live somewhere that doesn't allow a dog because I need a dog in my life. Also that day, I saw this place in Gramercy that was a studio loft in a co-op, and I really like this one. The loft feature is really interesting because a lot of studios, the bed has to be like in the main living area, but this one, the bed can be raised and kind of separate, and then you have the whole main room for living, you know, the kitchen and kind of like the couch, desk area, all of that. One con is that the closet is not a real closet. However, it is bigger width-wise and I think maybe depth-wise from what I currently have. And so it wasn't like enough of a deal breaker for me at all. And one thing that could have maybe been a deal breaker was the mini fridge, tiny fridge, and that's just kind of not really gonna work for me. I eat at home a lot. I need a place to, you know, keep my food. And I didn't really know much about a co-op, but essentially it's a much more intense vetting process. So you know your neighbors are going to be good, the building is really well maintained, and also it's just gonna be quiet, which I like. So the unit is also like on the top floor, is a 5th floor walk up, but for me that wasn't like a deal breaker because most of the places I looked at were walk-ups. I think all of them were. This one was a little bit higher, but that also meant you wouldn't have people tramping past your door all the time. It'd be really quiet. I also really liked that this one was south facing with a courtyard view, and there's a private courtyard just for like the co-op building, and it's really nice. And the building has like 2 separate buildings actually for that address, and this one is pushed back from the street, so it feels like a lot safer. The front building obviously is street facing, but that's where you have to go through the courtyard to get to the building, which I really liked. As a single woman living in New York and Manhattan, it seemed like, you know, a really safe option. And just overall, like the exposed brick, really cozy vibes. So the next place that I saw after the Gramercy loft was a 2-bedroom actually in the East Village. However, it was a 6th floor walk up, which is why I think it was one of the cheapest places I saw, if not the cheapest. But 2-bedroom for the price was amazing. It did make me question like what's the catch here, but I think it was mostly just that it was a walk-up and not like the nicest apartment ever. The kitchen was sort of a weird shape, but I mean for the 2-bedroom, like that was pretty legit. I don't need 2 bedrooms though. It's like just gonna be me, and maybe once or twice a year I'll have like a friend visit, or you know, my sister or my parents or something. So you know, I did really consider like it could be nice to have that, and I do want some sort of separation between my different living areas, but I wasn't like obsessed with it. And I did see a couple other units in that building as well, so like the layout was fine, but it wasn't like I was obsessed with it. A few days later I saw a couple buildings in the East Village, prime East Village location, right near Tompkins Square Park, which was one area I really considered. I thought it'd be really nice to be near the park while also still being able to walk to like kind of the NYU Greenwich Village area fairly easily. It is a little bit further away from subways, but I'm not like opposed to walking to the subway if necessary. So I did really like these. However, I had the same issue with it being a mini fridge, but I did look at 4 units in 2 buildings on the same street. I like the layout. I like that the bedroom was separate, even though it's a studio with these doors. Really good natural light. It just feels very New York, fire escape, like all of that. Some of them are street facing, some of them face more of like a backyard situation, but I thought both were really nice views. The closet space was really good. The bathrooms were pretty nice. I did notice that noise traveled very easily. I could hear people in the building. It was a Saturday, so I think people were, you know, hanging with friends and that kind of thing, but I could just tell that it was gonna be a little bit louder of a building, which is a little bit of a turn off for me. I wasn't like super loving that. Next, these were some of the last places I saw some units in a couple buildings in the Lower East Side 2 Bridges area, and 2 Bridges wasn't necessarily exactly where I wanted to be. But it is just sort of on the other side of the Williamsburg Bridge, so the location wasn't hugely different, but at least I was still in Manhattan, because a lot of times the bridge is closed on the weekends right now, which is a main like issue I'm having right now with where I'm living. So I knew I wouldn't have that issue on the other side of the bridge, and I, you know, would be in that area a lot anyways, so I already know it, near Trader Joe's and a Target, that kind of thing. So I was like, you know what, for the price, they're 1 bedrooms, it's really good for the price, and I like the layout, like the 1 bedroom, and then a really nice kitchen layout and a nice bathroom. It was good for what it was. I did really like them. I saw several units and they were all just like the same layout, just, you know, slightly different kitchens a little bit, slightly different closet configurations. Some of them only had 1 closet, some had 2 or 3, and some were higher up in the building, you know, more walk up, like higher levels or whatever, so more walking. But again, like that wasn't something that was a deal breaker for me. I did really like the 1 bedroom for the price, and the light was pretty decent in most of them, but I also wasn't like feeling like, oh, this could be my home for a long time. Again, I noticed the building was kind of loud. It seems like there were a lot of kids and like families in the building, which, you know, totally like that's fine. lots of families live in New York City, but for my age, like, I didn't really want a building that seemed to have like a lot of young kids and like a lot of noise. But for the location, it was really close to a subway stop, so, or actually a few subway stops, so, and yeah, I mean, it would be okay, you know? So let me know, comment down below what place you would pick, and I'll let you know what I picked now. So I ended up applying it right away to the loft in Gramercy because I could just really see myself there. I really liked it, and they were willing to negotiate about the fridge right away. So I was like, you know what, that kind of deals with my biggest con. I know I'll have a little bit bigger of a kitchen just because it is pretty small, so it gives me a little bit more flexibility. I just, yeah, it felt really cozy and like I can make it a home. However, because it is a co-op, it ended up taking over 2 weeks to do the whole application, and I had to interview, all of that. So it was really stressful and a lot of things went wrong that shouldn't have, but I still was like, this is worth it because I really want this place. But I wasn't really sure if it was gonna happen, and I also was starting to run up against the deadline of June 1st move-in, because my lease is ending June 1st. We actually ended the lease early, but just the process ended up taking longer. So I was getting to the point of being really anxious, really nervous about getting somewhere in time. So I ended up applying for another place. I applied for one of the places in the Lower East Side 2 Bridges area. It was actually in a different building than the one I originally saw, but it was the exact same layout, just like a few doors down. So I was like, you know what, let's go with it. It's a 1-bedroom, like it's pretty decent, nice location, whatever. So I was like, that's my backup. If I don't get the other place, hopefully I get this one because it's more chill. I could get it in a couple days, the realtor said, and so I did apply for that one as I was waiting towards the end of my application cycle for the studio in Gramercy, and I ended up getting approved for both. Today, when I'm filming this, it's the last business day before June 1st because of Memorial Day weekend, so it's just been so stressful, but I'm finally through it. And I decided to go with the loft, of course, because I'm obsessed with it and I've been fantasizing about it ever since I first saw the listing, like now a month ago. I was just really interested and I kept thinking about it when I saw the listing, and once I saw it in person, you know, I was just like ready to apply because that's how much I really liked it. So I hope it's gonna meet and exceed my expectations, and that living in a co-op is good. Not something I was planning for, but it seems really nice because it's a community of people who live there a long time and they really take pride in maintaining the building, and the owner who is like subleasing to me seems really good. I haven't talked with her directly, but she's been great in this whole process, so I'm excited that's finally happening, and I'm moving in 4 days, which is wild. I can't believe I'm leaving Williamsburg, but it's been stressful, but it's also really exciting, so definitely stay tuned. I think I'm gonna do, you know, an apartment tour, and I've been vlogging this whole process, so if you want to see kind of the in the moment when I'm not like all made up and like, yay, I just got this apartment, I've vlogged all of that, so definitely check that out. It'll be up probably after this, but we'll see, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you're not already to follow my New York City journey, and I'll see you all next time. So glad I finally made this video. I've been waiting for this for weeks.